we have, we're trying to find out where, it's Mr. Richie Hines is supposed to be here through DOT. Don't know if there's a miscommunication on why he's not here right now, but what we're gonna do, we've contacted someone that's gonna try to get up with him, and so they'll call me. I've got my phone turned off, but if you notice I answer the phone, the reason why is they're going to call me either with a number that I can reach him or an explanation. But what we're going to do is I'm going to call the meeting to order, and then we do want to have some conversation with our superintendent who is here of Cumberland County Schools and the associate superintendent. The idea is we know this is a project that affects the town of Hope Mills, it affects DOT, and affects Cumberland County Schools. All three of us are a part of this because there's some town streets that are being flooded, but the main road is the DOT project. So at this time, I'll call our special meeting to order, and I would ask Commissioner Legg, would you lead us in our invocation, and we'll follow that by our Pledge of Allegiance.
So we'll stand, please, and take off your hat here. Father, we thank you for this another day. We thank you for the good weather that you've sent us. We thank you for the new year that you've given us. We have so many things to be thankful for. But Lord, we'd like to ask you to watch over this meeting, to let the decisions that are made here tonight and the conversations being meaningful, that you watch over each and every one of us as we're going our way to home. We ask you to watch over our military personnel, both near and far away, and we'll never fail to give you our praise. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. I need approval for our agenda this evening. Our agenda is for the purpose of receiving information and discussion in reference to related flooding in front of C. Wayne Collier Elementary School.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed. So at this time, I guess my thoughts would be turn it over to our town manager, who can give us, I know there's pictures up there, and then we can have and I would ask our superintendents if you would like to come forward and sit on this front row. That way you can be an active participant, because there may be some questions. And we may change this format a little bit until we find out if Mr. Hines is coming, in that we can have input from our citizens and questions and answers. And I guess Mr. Holland is going to come and help us too. You're just going to run this. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
This first picture is, I believe, a picture during or after the Hurricane Matthew. Hurricane Matthew, sorry. We've had so many storms and stuff, but this is in front, this is the gas station. This is on Rockfish, and the gas station is off to the left. The school is a little bit further down in the picture on the right. So that would be the intersection of Deaver, I believe, Deaver Circle. And then we'll scroll again, and we've got, now that is a recent picture right there in front of the school, of a car that has gone off into the ditch. And you can see the rain, how bad it is. There's several pictures of that, just showing a different view. And then we're back to that. And then there's a video during the hurricane, Hurricane Matthew. And
This
the flooding
video is Sturbridge,
that's on Sturbridge,
which is the main entrance going into Collier.
Yep. And we'll let that play, and you can see how bad that is. I have been here since 2011, and at some point after, I can't remember if it was 12 or 13 or 14, when the trees were cut in front of the school. I'm not sure. But when those trees were cut, it was never like that during a, well, it was obviously that's a hurricane, but the flooding that we're experiencing almost with every rain that we have now, it was not doing that prior to the trees being cut down. And I believe in my letter to you all, to the school and to Dr. Connolly, that I included a copy of the water quality improvements that were recommended. The school came with a plan for that area where the trees were cut down, and upon determination that they had to put stormwater in, they decided not to move forward with the improvements that they had planned to make. Ms. Brown, correct me if I'm wrong. They were going to put in a walking trail or an additional.
There was supposed to be on the plan that was presented, there
There
was
was
a walking
trail.
trail that from the school all the way down to the front by Rockfish, a picnic shelter.
Mhm.
There was gonna be some new playground equipment that was on a pad, and the baseball field. And after the plan was submitted and they were told that they had to put
Stormwater in.
stormwater treatment on site, they asked what they had to do to not have, or what they could put there and that wouldn't trigger stormwater ordinance. So that was the baseball.
Yeah, and so as a result, there was nothing done for stormwater, and then we've taken the trees away. The trees are gone. So with every rain, it seems like it's just getting worse and worse and worse. So that's the purpose of this meeting and trying to have DOT come to is to, work together with a solution for these flooding issues, because they affect our citizens. And, even though Sturbridge, that hurricane was an unusual, that's an unusual situation. But still, I mean, we had one major hurricane this past year, and then another one that kind of skirted us. These 100-year, 50-year, 200-year storms are coming more and more frequently. The purpose of this meeting is to try to come to, some sort of a, what can we do? What can we do to help you all? And what can we do to help DOT come to, some sort of a resolution to fix the issue? So.
I've talked to, I didn't get directly to Mr. Hines, but I did talk through Joel Strickland to Mr. Burns, and he said that they'll need to reschedule and that he will follow up with you tomorrow.
Okay.
And that then, and he wanted to apologize that he's not here at this meeting, but he would reschedule it.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, may I ask, has this been recorded tonight?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so they
Yeah.
could go back and review this
Right.
if
Yes.
need be.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
And they've received, DOT has received the pictures. I did not have this picture and the video prior to the letter going to DOT. So, but they received the other pictures when I sent the letter to DOT. So.
Okay. At this time, I guess first of all, our new school superintendent, Mr. Connolly. Of course, I know that you know where the school is, and you may have even witnessed the water. But this has been an ongoing project, a problem prior to your ever getting here. And a little backup information is there used to be a full stand of trees in front of C. Wayne Collier. I mean, it was beautiful and it was very thick. And it was when those trees were all cut down, then what happened is more runoff. So that caused more water not to have a place to go. And then the elevation of when they put in the new athletic field, that elevation then created the runoff that went down to Sturbridge and over on the other side. So not saying that it's the school system's fault, because the problem was there prior to those trees being cut. It just was worse. And then the other part that I think everybody would agree to is the amount of rainfall we've had has contributed greatly, because prior to this we would have a problem, but it wasn't anything like what we've had most recently. So that kind of lets you know that we're not putting you here on the spot. We just wanted to bring you to part of this, because we do believe it's a project that we've all somehow got to figure out the solution to. So I guess what we can do now, if you would like, is hear from our citizens, those that have been impacted the most. I do have the ones that signed up, but since we don't have a presentation, anyone that would have a comment that would like to come forward, I believe that would be fair. Mr. Klimchak?
Yes.
Okay, if you'll just, and whatever comments you make, know that this is being recorded, and so this is something that we can also have DOT listen to, and that way you'll have your opinions out there if you can't make the second meeting.
Okay. Well, hello and thank you. I'm just right next to that church on the distant view, the first house that was at the lowest point there, I would say. And judging from the picture I saw of Carlton's house, which is 2 down, it's probably 30 to 35 inches of water that came into the house as a guesstimate. Now, when I bought the house, I was told that it was 6 or 7 inches that came in, so I kind of got caught in it, which is just as bad either way. But my situation there starts with the school. And right in front of the school, it's very low there, and that builds up, and there's a pond there. This is very specific to just that area right there along Sturbridge that I'm referring to. And that pond builds up a little bit. It goes right up those electrical boxes that sit outside. There's 2 culverts there. It'll try to flow through there, but once you get in front of the church next door, there's no place for it to go. It crosses the road by that fire hydrant, goes into the lot next to the church, builds up in there enough that it'll come through my side fence and goes into my backyard. And behind the house next to me, there is a storm drain that's set in the back of somebody's lot that I believe was probably installed by the developer. And that was cleared out prior to Florence, which was a real good thing because it was plugged. And I don't know this to be fact, but we believe that during Michael, that may have that may have added a certain amount of buildup, because there's a little swale right there. My house is about 2 feet below the road, so I'm really vulnerable. I mean, and if that water doesn't get relief there, it just ends up in my backyard. It just builds up. And actually, the house right next to me, their garage is even lower, so I know they got flooded. My concern, I know, stems on this intersection, though. Everything there is going to be tied to that, because if they ditch out of that intersection, the Rockfish and Camden Crossing exit intersection, then all these other areas will be able to be pitched to that culvert, I would think. And, well, I feel really bad where I am, because, I mean, every time it happens, I know eventually I'm going to have a lot of water in the house.
Right.
It's just going to happen. Thanks for your time.
Well, if you'll give your name and address so that way it'll be recorded. And
Ed Klimchak, 3531 Sturbridge Drive, Hope Mills, North Carolina.
okay, thank you so much,
Thank
sir.
you.
Okay, next we have Alexander Moore.
All right, good evening, everybody. Yes, this picture right here, my house is right in the middle of, it's right across the street there. My house sits right in the middle of all this water every time it rains. We get Matthew, Florence, and Michael. We get this right here. Matter of fact, this person is in front of my house right now. My house is right across the street from the fence there. And when it rains, the water just comes up, and I got put on like boots up to my knees to get in and out of my house. I had to take my dog across the parking lot to the car wash so it could go to the bathroom, and then back. And it's really a hassle. I put money into putting underpinning, like the plastic under my home. And when I do that, and then that water hits, it just tear all that up. And I look under my house now, it's all rolled up. Money wasted. And I know that when I gets it, my neighbor, they gets it worse because my house do set off the ground, look like they're set right on the ground. And the school is get flooded. And also the trailer park across the street, up the street to the left, they gets it too. So it's just bad. And I've been there since 2002. I retired out of the military there. And I've been in the military 26 years, and I retired, get a nice spot, and then this happened. So when I first got there, it wasn't this bad, but now it's just terrible. So I don't know what to do. The news people came and they come to my house and they looked at it, and I tell them what happened. I don't know if y'all seen me on TV, but ABC and NBC and all of that, I've been on there telling it like it is. It's no hard feeling against nobody, just want to get this
get it
problem
fixed.
solved.
Yes,
So
sir.
I really love the area, but if it keeps on like this, we're gonna have to move or do something, I don't know. But I hope that we come up with a plan where we can fix this drainage problem so everybody can be happy.
Right. And Mr. Moore, would you give your name and address also so they can have it on the recording?
Yes, my name is Alexander Moore Jr. My address is 6421 Rockfish Road, Hope Mills, North Carolina, 28348.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Moore.
Yes, sir.
I meant to ask Mr. Clemshaw, did either of y'all experience flooding prior to Matthew that you can recall?
Yes, sir, I have. It had before it just come in the yard, but not quite just high, but yes, we had flooding in the yard. Yes, sir.
Bad.
Heavy rain, it starts puddling up real
Right.
fast. So we're only there 8 months though.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
been here for 27 years. 27 years.
Mr. Chase.
All right, thank you.
Okay. And I guess, so you'll know, Sturbridge Drive we were very familiar with that because my mother and father-in-law owned a home on the corner of Sturbridge and Rehoboth, and then across the street was my sister-in-law and brother-in-law. And I can truly say that when they built there in the 80s, we didn't see this type of problem because we were coming and going there all the time. So again, I think it's something that has occurred, and then the great number of or great amounts of rain that we've had has made a difference. Greg Vendetti.
Hi, I'm Greg Vendetti, and I want to thank you guys for getting back to me because I took over my parents' rentals because my dad has late-stage dementia, so I became his guardian. So now I'm trying to take care of his properties, and this is one that I wish they'd just sell because it's just been a problem for the last 5-6 years after the first hurricane. And I did speak to, you guys all got back to me with emails and told me who to contact, and I contacted Mr. Hines, Richie Hines, or Jerry Hines or something.
Richie
And,
Hines.
and he said that they do have a long-term fix for it, which is going over the road, building a retention pond or something like that. I said, well, that's great, but DOT seems to take a long time to do things. So we need a short-term fix. And I said maybe putting a temporary retention pond over it, see Wayne Collier would be the way to go and fence it off, make it safe. But I also talked to him about what caused the problem. And what caused the problem was, I think she touched on it, with the stormwater codes or something, that if a property is less than an acre, you don't have to have any stormwater code, you don't have to meet them. So when they developed it, they made sure they were right under the limit so they didn't have to have it. And then I've been here since 1980. I lived actually across the street from your mother and father, and they were great people, and your sister and your brother-in-law. But we never had flooding, and that area where the car wash is, all the storage units, and the new shops there, they weren't there, and there were trees there, and there was sand, so the water would go there. But during this last storm, I drove through there, and I could just see just a mammoth amount of water just crossing that street, going into Alex's yard, and then going right into our yard. And I've had to redo the ductwork 2 times this year on that house because it's too low. It actually needs to be lifted up. And I've told the tenants they ought to just probably leave, and I'll board the house up because it just floods every time it's a bad rainstorm. It never did that back in the 80s, like you said. And I think it was two problems. It was the school trying to make a nice athletic field for the students, which is nice. And then on top of that, the development of all that other stuff. And Richie Hines understands, or Jerry Hines understands that's exactly what the problem is. But now it's very dangerous. I have pictures that show a car sideways in the ditch because they couldn't tell where they were supposed to be. And they were literally, the car was half submerged in the ditch because it's so deep in front of the house. And that was just recently, just a rainstorm. So
Yeah.
it's a problem, and I wish they'd take care of it short term. If they could just do something short term, and I don't know what the school system would allow them to do short term, maybe put in a retention pond somewhere around there, not take up too much space, make it safe, of course, so the students can't get in there and drown. But I think that would probably stop the problem and not go over the road. 'Cause as it is, when you guys close it, you try to do what you can do. They still drive through and put waves toward the house. So I
Okay.
appreciate your time, and I appreciate you having a meeting.
Okay, and would you give us your address also?
Okay, the address of the house is 6407 Rockfish Road, and it's that yellow house. And my address is 106 Oak Ridge Drive, Havelock, North Carolina, 28532.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
okay, thank you, sir.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
So as many of you are my neighbors, because I live in Timberlake, and I moved there in 2001. My son went to Collier. And Ms. Parker is the principal now at the school, I believe. Is that correct? No, yeah. So it was the principal prior when the trees were cut down. And of course, we were all devastated as we watched about 250 pine trees being chopped down. And during the time that I have lived in Timberlake, I never saw Sturbridge ever flood, ever. Now, I think there was a little bit of pooling at Sommer Street and Rockfish Road, but never have we had this. Now we just have minimal rainstorms, and because we're so saturated, there's nowhere for the water to go. And so these people are in their yards with just the most minor storm, waiting to see what's going to happen to their yard. And it's very unfortunate. It's Matthew was horrible. That was the first time we saw a major flood take place, but it's not the only time it's flooded since then, because we've just stayed saturated.
Yeah. Well, and if I may, I'll add too that just recently last week with the rain that we had, you know, an all-day soaking rain, our police department has to go out and put the barricades up when it gets to the point, and it does get to the point quickly. Yep, exactly. So, you know, it's just, it's become a weekly occurrence with all this rain. And granted, the amount of rain that we've had is extremely unusual, but for just a, you know, an average rainstorm or a rain event, for this to keep occurring, something has to be done.
Madam Mayor,
So,
Yes.
I want to thank everybody for coming from Timberlake. As all of you probably know, I own a house on Sturbridge Drive myself, right across from Maxwell. My daughter and her family still live there today. This area, without any question, is dangerous, and I've said that numerous times. My granddaughters go to Seaway Collier, and still do. There's a lot of children who are walkers that exit Seaway Collier out that fence right here on this road that you'll see. There's a fence down there. It's a gate. We have a lot of walkers where the traffic guard is. And those parents have deep concerns too, that some of those kids out of Seaway Collier are going to try to navigate all that water. Some of them have parents, some of them don't. That's one. Two is that Rockfish is a major gateway to Hope Mills and to that school system. Not only, when that floods, not only are cars not allowed to go through there, but school buses too, Dr. Connolly, are limited from going there. And it cuts our town off. Even though Our police department will put up barricades. There are people that will drive straight through it. I've witnessed it myself. I have seen it myself. People will go right through there. I think the spirit of our meeting tonight, and I'm glad everybody's here, is collaboration and cooperation. We're all on the same team and we want something done. It's a question of when it's going to get done in the short term. Something needs to be done with this area in the short term before someone is seriously injured. And then it's too late when someone's injured or we lose someone or a vehicle over something that is a huge issue, and it's a community issue. It's not a school issue. It's not a DOT issue. It's not a board issue. This is a community issue. And it should be treated that way. And with this much emphasis on stormwater, as we've had in the last, 2 or 3 years, with all the storms, and I mean across our state, this should be a priority issue, that everybody come to the table and say, doesn't matter how we got here, it's where we go from here that matters. And that's why we're here in this room. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Conley, would you like to have an opportunity to speak and participate?
Sure.
And again,
Thank you.
we're glad, we're sorry that this is the first opportunity you get to meet us.
No problem at all.
But we're so thankful that you're here.
I'm elated to be here. Thank you for this opportunity to come and as you indicated, to collaborate together. It's not a new problem, but I think I tell people often now that no one can say that the superintendent of Cumberland County Schools did not arrive with a storm, because we've had 2 storms since I got here.
That is true.
But I know the problem at C. Wayne Collier. During the last hurricane, I was not able to get to C. Wayne Collier to sort of assess what was happening because of this very problem right here. Our buses, of course, even after we got back open, there was some time before we could get into C. Wayne Collier, but staff was assessing it along the way. I've looked at the diagrams that you've sent us. Let me introduce Joe Desiremore. Joe Desiremore is the new Tim Kinlaw. So all of you who know Tim retired. I don't know why people think they should retire, but Tim decided to retire. And Joe Desiremore is the new Associate Superintendent for Auxiliary Services. And so as we move along to try to come up with a solution to this opportunity and to this challenge here, Joe will be our lead person to work through it. He's very experienced with dealing with a lot of things similar to this, and we'll work together with the town. We met initially some of the town staff as we arrived tonight, so roll up our sleeves, put our heads together, and figure out, one, what can be done. I think the gentleman said it best: if we wait on DOT, we might have some more storms before they get here. So let's put our heads together and figure out what can be done, what's allowable. We can look at the property we have at C. Wayne Collier. Is there a property we can give up so that a stormwater retention pond can be built? If so, who builds it, who maintains it, and all of that? That's where we've got to be. We've got to be about solutions to this problem, and DOT may have a part in it, paying for it, doing it, whatever, but I think we need to go ahead and get to work between the town staff and our school system staff, figuring out what we believe is a possibility. Joe, you want to add anything? And by the way, Joe, I'm a good Christian fella, but there have been some occasions where I have stolen. I stole Joe from Wake County Public School System. He came with me. He was the Chief Operations and Auxiliary Services Officer for Wake County Schools. And when I received this appointment, I started pulling on Joe to see if he'd come with me. So I'm very blessed to have him join our team.
We thought you guys might be good Baptists since you were sitting on that back row.
That's right.
There you go. You got it. You got it. Well, I just want to say also thank you for inviting us. We'll be looking forward to really working on this solution with you. I'll be excited to work with the staff and see where we can go with it.
Good deal.
Thank you.
That's a good deal, Joe.
All right.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I see a lot of my neighbors sitting out here tonight. I live in Village Green myself. I'm affected by this and have been, but we now have another way in at the other end. And that road's falling apart as well. I noticed today when I visited the area that Somer Drive is deteriorating bad. The entrance to Somer Drive has big holes in it. Rockfish Road in that same area is starting to deteriorate. No matter where we might be able to put a detention pond or what the solution to this problem might be, I think we need to worry about the disease that's involved with flooding, with the mosquitoes and everything, and we're lucky this is a good time to not have the mosquitoes. But, you know, just like when we built the dam, it's built for, what, 100-year flood? And we've had 3 in 3 years. So, good Lord worked in mysterious ways. He's telling us something needs to be done there. And I agree with the superintendent that we need to roll our sleeves up, jump in the ditch and start digging and get a solution to this problem. I know when the trees were taken out of the schoolyard, that did absorb a lot of water in there. And there was talk of a big fine against the Cumberland County Schools for cutting the trees without a permit. That's a bad relationship there because that fine goes right back to Cumberland County Schools. So it wouldn't be used to fine the school system. The money would be right back in their bank. But I think this board is eager to step forward. I know Ms. Larson's directly affected by it, as Mr. Bellflowers is, myself, and all you good people. The stuff that you're gonna have to go through in the future with the dampness under your house, this cost my daughter about $500 to put a humidifier under her house because she had water in one corner because they were afraid it was going to affect the floor system and the floor joists and things. Mr. Medadi, I understand about your house. It really catches it bad. And the house on the corner there across from the car wash, built a nice garage out back, metal building. I go by it about every day. And then when Mike put the USA development over there with the storage area and the car wash and the shops in there, we lost area there where the water went into the ground. And I think it's just catching up with us now. Development is. But we've got new apartments going in on Somer Drive. I think I saw like 3 of them finished and 3 or 4 more being framed up now. I'm wondering where all that water is going to that should have been absorbing into the ground in that area. I am fortunate to have lived there since 1984. I've had good neighbors, had good schools. My children all attended C. Wayne Collier. And our relationship with C. Wayne Collier has been great. Actually, all the schools have been great to us as a family. Anything that I can do to assist you, please feel free to call upon me. Our phone numbers are all listed. They're not hard to get. And if you can't find it, just call Miss Adams. She'll give it to you. I don't have any cards in my pocket, or I give them to you tonight. But I appreciate you all coming out. And Superintendent, thank you guys for coming. And thank you guys for taking out your busy schedule to come here to try to resolve this problem. I know that it seems like we're trying to pass the buck to DOT, and really that's probably where it should be, but we don't have time, as you said, to wait on DOT. We gotta do something and do something fast. The trailer park there, I believe Kuntz, it's underwater most of the time. So, but thank you for coming. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Just a recommendation that I was wondering, we did receive back in 2011 and I think Ms. Adams sent you a copy of a proposal of one thing that could be done, and that was an infiltration basin that could be put, and that would help some of the water. And I know the cost has changed. I know, Ms. Brown, it was listed as $31,800, and I know, but well, I was going to say, well, so it might be less. My thoughts, and I guess I request the board's thoughts on this also, but we have had a stormwater master plan look at the area, and of course, they gave us a price in 2011, and that was just to assist with what was going on at that time. Of course, there's been a lot of things changed since then. Would it be okay to have a committee with the associate superintendent and Ms. Brown and yourself and probably Mr. Cisco, who was, I'm just trying to throw out some names of people that could address this, and then we could come back and include Mr. Hines in that. So that way, if Mr. Hines could meet at a different time of day rather than in the evening, it might be that we could have a meeting and then get it moving quicker. I'm just thinking if we wait until we can hold another hearing or another meeting and to get Mr. Hines here to make a presentation, that maybe we could speed the process up if we did some cooperation sooner rather than later. But we know that they've addressed the issue, because some of the issue would be corrected when they do what they're going to do up at Rockfish and Camden in that intersection. But like you said, we don't know how long that's going to take before they start that.
Yeah.
Would that be appropriate to just,
Madam Mayor?
yes?
Would it also, maybe someone from the county, since we do have several properties that are actually county property, but in our MIA, the two houses there on, Deaver and Sommer are both county properties, the trailer park,
We can invite someone from the county. I'm not sure who that would be, because we've been told numerous times that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we've been told numerous times by the county that they don't regulate stormwater. They're not in the stormwater business. They look at that as that's a state issue.
Right.
We regulate it as a town, but as a county, they don't. They defer
Well,
to
they
the
might want to
state,
join in
but-
if they know Cumberland
we could-
County Schools and DOT and the town of Hope Mills. They would kind of look, they might.
Yeah, I can certainly ask if there's an appropriate person
Right.
and, on the county, and then we can have Mr. Cisco, Ms. Brown,
And then Mr.
include maybe, you want to include Tyler, or, okay.
Well, and my thoughts are, then that way you could set something up with Mr. Hines when you
Yes.
talk to him and coordinate it with a smaller group of people.
People.
And then the presentation could be back to our board and
Right.
to our citizens on what you came up with.
Right.
Or what they could come up with. Because I really believe this is something that we are going to have to address.
And we can coordinate with, Dr. Connolly and, the name again?
Most people
D-
say Mr.
D-
D.
D-
so we can't
Mr. D.
remember Desire more.
Desire more, okay.
Just remember, I desire more.
I got it. Okay, that's easy to remember that one.
Madam
Okay.
Mayor.
We'll
Yes, sir.
coordinate with you
Yeah,
all.
I agree with you.
and-
I think a committee would be most appropriate. Because it appears to me that the DOT plan is a long-term plan.
Yeah,
And that's not going to address this. That's not going to fix this. What we're here for the cooperation piece and the collaboration is a short-term effective plan between now and when the DOT plan comes into play. But there's no way we can go forward and allow this issue to go undressed until DOT decides to do something about it. So, yeah,
Okay.
I agree with you, Mayor, and if you would like to have a board member join the committee, I'd volunteer to do it.
Okay. Well, my thoughts were just have our staff on the committee,
Okay.
and then that way they can bring it back to the board for a board decision, a board presentation. And I think too, just as a starting point would be, this one plan that was designed that came about in 2011 could possibly be something that could be used. And if it's going to cost less, it might be feasible to, we could split the cost for a short-term, a short-term fix, and then look at how that would impact the DOT's long-term fix, maybe. But.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I have a question for Beth. When this plan was put together, it was put together with the trees?
Yes.
Okay, because the way I look at the picture of the proposed plan with the infiltration ponds, it has all the 200 and some trees with it.
So they don't have to cut trees.
Okay. So my question is,
That's just a conceptual drawing, that's
Yeah.
not, there will have to be an engineered design.
Yeah.
yeah, is this, well, that was my question.
That is not an engineered design.
Yeah.
So there will
So this conceptual may not be valid.
It's valid, the conceptual drawing is valid, if that is what they are looking to put on their property, they would have to hire an engineering firm to come in and use that conceptual drawing.
Okay.
They would have to provide, hydraulics for the ponds or the infiltration basins, and then there would be construction involved.
Okay.
So this would be a valuable short-term plan,
Yes, sir.
in your opinion, as a professional?
So that is a water quality. That's not for water quantity. It will have some holding capacity, but that design or that conceptual drawing was for water quality, to treat the water.
Ah, I'm glad I asked this question.
Well, it will.
Ah, yes.
Yeah,
So,
it will help.
thank you,
yeah.
Beth.
Okay, so that is a water quality. That is
Okay.
not water quantity. So what we have over here behind the ball field, that is a water quality feature. But as you all know, if we get 4 inches of rain, that thing fills up and it goes away. It's perfectly safe to walk through it. It's perfectly fine. So those are very valid because we have sandy soils. They have sandy soils. We all have sandy soils. So that is valid and it will work for water quantity as well, but it has to be an engineered design. That you're looking at is
Okay.
just a, hey, we think this will work, and they put it on paper. That's what the master plan is. There is no design work in the master plan. It's just an engineer's thought process as to what will work to fix something.
But Beth, this is a good start point.
It's a good starting point, yes, sir.
Okay,
Good. Okay.
thank you. Thank you,
All
Mayor.
right, you're welcome.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Beth.
I think as we all realize, there's, no matter what this may end up costing, there's no price on a life, especially a life of a child that may be in that school that could lose their life in these flooded areas. Fortunately, the schools were closed down and we didn't have a lot of school traffic during some of these flooding that we had, which reduced the risk of something happening. But that car that was sitting in that ditch a while ago, there could very easily been a child in that car. There's no price on any life, but a child seems like the value is much higher to us. I know it is in my family. I would hate the thoughts of losing a child that way. But I think the sooner, if we started on this tomorrow morning, it's too late. We should have already had the opportunity to do something. And again, I want to thank all of you for coming out here tonight and sharing your thoughts with us and your stories with us. Some of us are directly affected the same as you are. In my neighborhood even flooded for a while, but they've got some of that squared away now in Village Green. But still, guys, we gotta work together, partners, hand in hand, neighbors like you and I are, and Miss Larson and you guys are. We all live in the same neighborhood. Mr. Bellflowers lives over in that same area by the theater. So I think the sooner we start to work on this project, the better off we will be.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Mayor, I had one
Yes,
quick,
sure.
Dr. Zarmore, do you have an estimate of how many retention ponds the total school system has? I mean, is it a couple dozen? I think Jack Britt has one down there. pretty much all the new,
Should be more than that, but I am not up to speed on that yet.
pretty much all the new construction for the last 15 years or so. Okay. I know I have a large developer as a client, Broadwell Land Company. They've built temporary retention ponds like for Greystone, Buckhead. And then, once the stormwater system's in place, they fill in the retention ponds, of course. Something of that nature could be suitable, but I'm not the expert. Appreciate it.
Okay. Well, if there's anyone else in the audience that has something that you'd like to say, if not, we appreciate you being here this evening, and we will do another special notice when we have another presentation, but we're hoping that we can keep you up to date by the committee that we're going to have for this area. And that would be, again, made up of Associate Superintendent Desire Moore, Beth Brown, Mr. Cisco, Tyler, Miss Adams, and then we're going to invite Mr. Hines to be a part of that. And then that way they can go ahead and get started on this, and then we'll bring a presentation back to the community. I think that way we don't wait to schedule another hearing. We go ahead and schedule something soon. And again, we appreciate you being here this evening, and we hope we can get this solved for you. And with that being said, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So
Motion
moved.
to adjourn.